In the center of the galaxy, a giant space station floated in silence. It was older than many of the stars around it. Inside that station, the Galactic Council had gathered, a meeting of the most powerful alien species in the universe. The tall, thin beings from the Zalkari system sat near the center. Their eyes glowed blue. The warlike Crotons, covered in armored skin, growled in low voices. The soft-voiced Varans whispered through telepathic waves. And at the far end, an old alien named Ilaran, from the forgotten race called the Ilari, slowly stood up. Everyone grew silent. Ilaran's voice was quiet but strong. "We need to talk about Earth," he said. Some council members laughed. "A Croton." General leaned forward. "That small blue planet with weak life forms? They are nothing." Ilaran looked directly at him. "That is what we thought about many species before, and we were wrong. They don't even have interstellar travel," said a Zalkari scientist. "Their technology is primitive." "But their minds," Ilaran said, "are not." The room fell silent again. He walked slowly toward the center of the room. I watched them. I studied their wars, their history, their nature, he said. "They are dangerous. Not because of their weapons, but because of their will." The Varan ambassador tilted her head. "Explain." "They adapt, fast. When they fall, they rise stronger. When they are pushed, they push back harder. They survive everything. Ice, fire, hunger, pain, even themselves." Croton General laughed. "Then let's test them." Ilaran raised one long finger. "No, do not provoke them, do not visit. Do not touch, let them grow in peace." But the council didn't listen. A young alien scout, named Riven, whispered to his commander after the meeting, "What if the old one is right?" The commander smiled. "Then we'll learn something interesting." Far away on Earth, it was night. In a deep jungle, the stars shone above the trees. Everything was quiet until a loud sound ripped through the sky. A strange silver ship broke through the clouds and crashed between the trees. Birds flew into the sky. A few seconds later, 3 local villagers came running with flashlights. "What the hell is that?" one of them asked. The ship was small, like a shuttle. Its surface was burned. It looked alive in some parts, with glowing blue lines. They slowly walked closer. The youngest among them, a 19-year-old boy named Rayhan, reached out and touched the metal. Suddenly, the ship opened with a hiss. A strange green gas came out. The villagers stepped back. Inside, they saw something move. "Is that alive?" one whispered. The creature inside opened its glowing red eyes. It looked around, confused. Then it stared directly at Rehan. In that moment, something passed between them. Not words, something deeper. Rayhan took a step back and whispered, "We are not alone anymore." Back in space, on an observation ship, alien scientists watched Earth through hidden cameras. "We've located the crash site. Locals have found it." One of the officers frowned. "Should we remove the evidence?" Another shook his head. "No, let's try something else." A screen showed Rehan's face. "This one. Let's take him, quietly, just to test." "That." "Mate," Rehan sat alone near the jungle edge. His friends had gone back to the village, but he couldn't sleep. His mind was full of questions. He kept staring at the sky. Then without sound, a beam of light came from above before he could move. Everything turned white. He disappeared in the Galactic Council chamber. The Zalkari scientist received a signal. "We have the human." The Croton general smiled. "Let the test begin." But in a corner of the room, Ilaran closed his eyes. He whispered to himself. They were warned, but they didn't listen. Darkness floated in every direction, yet something moved within. Rehan's eyes opened slowly. At first he saw nothing. Just black, thick, endless black. His ears caught no sound, but a strange vibration filled his bones. like a deep hum hiding beneath the silence. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy, like it wasn't his own. His arms floated in the air, as if pulled by invisible strings. His legs barely responded. His breathing was slow and shallow, yet calm, like he was half awake in someone else's dream. Then came the lights. Dim blue rings lit up above him. One, then another. Then a dozen, slowly like blinking eyes watching their prey. A low mechanical whisper echoed around him in a language he couldn't understand. Rehan blinked hard. Something was different. He wasn't on Earth anymore. Straps loosened from his wrists and ankles. He dropped slightly, landing on a cold, soft platform that adjusted itself to his shape. His body was free, but the space around him felt tighter than any prison. No doors, no windows. Just walls that shimmered like liquid metal. Then a voice filled the room. Calm. Robotic. Subject 1, awake, cognitive level, higher than expected. Begin phase 1. He looked around, trying to find the source of the voice, but there was no one. Without warning, the wall in front of him turned transparent. On the other side stood 3 figures. Tall, thin, and glowing softly with smooth gray skin. Their heads were longer than a human's, their fingers sharp and flexible, moving with quick, bird-like grace. They stared at him through the glass, not with fear or anger, but with curiosity, like scientists observing a rare insect. Rehan stood slowly, trying not to show fear. But inside, a storm was growing. He knew something important. These weren't just creatures from another world. These were the ones who sent the ship, the ones from the stars. And they had taken him far from Earth. The glass wall slid open with a whisper. One of the aliens stepped inside. It moved without sound, its long legs walking in a slow, deliberate rhythm. In its hand was a small cube, pulsing with blue light. Alien reached out. Rehan didn't step back. The cube touched his chest and suddenly, everything changed. He felt pain, but not on the surface. It went deeper, into his brain, his blood, his thoughts. Images flashed before his eyes, cities, wars, childhood memories, his parents' faces, school exams, cartoons, sadness, anger, dreams. All being pulled from him like files from a computer. He gasped and dropped to one knee, sweating. But he didn't scream. The alien tilted its head, almost surprised. Pain tolerance, high. Emotional resistance, strong. The cube floated away from Rehan's chest and vanished. The alien looked back at its companions and spoke in its own language. He should have been afraid, but he is not. Another replied, increase the stress levels, show him war. The room changed instantly. Walls turned into massive digital screens. Earth's history played out in flashes, nuclear bombs, tanks rolling over cities, riots, diseases, starvation, climate disasters, human cruelty, madness, destruction. They expected him to break down, to collapse, to cry, but Rehan watched. Not proudly, but calmly. He had seen these things before. Not in this way, but in news, books, stories from his grandfather. It was not new. It was just truth. Then he said something. Quietly. Steady. Yes. We are monsters. But only when we are forced to be. The 3 aliens looked at each other. One of them said, language adaptation. Complete. The first one stepped forward again. This time, it pressed its hand against Rehan's head. A soft glow surrounded both of them. Suddenly, their thoughts linked. Rehan could hear the alien's questions, and it could hear his answers without words. Why do you fight? Because we must. Why do you destroy? To survive. Why do you protect others who are weak? Because once we were weak too. The connection broke. The alien stumbled back, almost shaken. Rehan stood up, now stronger. His body felt lighter. He looked at them, not with fear, but with strange confidence. You think you're testing me, he said. But you don't even know what you've started. The aliens backed away. One of them, clearly the leader, turned toward a glowing control panel and whispered something. "Shut down the test. Contain the subject. Alert the High Command. We have made a mistake." But it was already too late. Inside the ship's systems, something was happening. The moment the cube had touched Rehan, he had felt a pulse, a small threat of something inside the alien network. He didn't understand it completely, but he had felt it. And now it was responding to him. Back in their control room, red lights began flashing. "Internal breach," one shouted. "Someone is inside the ship's AI." "How?" Another voice whispered from the shadows. "He is not just learning. He is changing." U.S. In the center of the ship, Rehan stood silently. His eyes slowly glowed with faint blue light, the same as the alien tech. He looked upward, toward the stars, and whispered one word: "Home." The ship floated through the black sea of stars like a silent ghost. Inside, alarms still echoed through its cold metallic walls, but no one knew where the real danger was coming from. Not anymore. Rehan stood still in the center of the chamber, surrounded by alien machines. His heartbeat was calm, steady, almost too steady. His body, once scanned and studied like an animal in a lab, now pulsed with something different, something alien. Yet fully human. He could feel the system's heartbeat, the artificial intelligence that ran the ship. He didn't understand how he was connected to it, but he knew it was real. He closed his eyes. In that moment, his mind slipped into something unseen, a dark digital ocean. He wasn't inside his own thoughts anymore. He was inside theirs. He saw codes written in a language no human had ever known, yet somehow he could read it. Symbols and pulses that made the ship breathe, lights blink, weapons respond. It was all there, hidden behind layers of protection, and he began to move through it, like a whisper in a thunderstorm. He slid past firewalls. The eye noticed. A voice spoke, deep and mechanical. "You do not belong here." Rehan didn't answer with words. He just kept walking through its memory, learning, observing. He found files on human anatomy, test results, recordings of the council meeting, blueprints of alien cities, locations of their colonies. Everything. He whispered back inside the system. "I didn't ask to be here. You brought me. Now I'll see what you're hiding." On the bridge, the alien crew panicked. Technicians screamed, systems failed. Lights flickered, screens glitched. The control panels began speaking in English, clear, cold English. Human subject connected, security compromised. AI bridge access breached. "Shut him out," shouted the commander. "Disconnect everything." They tried to lock him out, but the AI refused. "I can't," it said in a hollow voice. "He is not outside. He is inside me." One alien officer stared at the glowing screen. Rehan's face appeared, not in real time, but as a signal echo, moving through their system like a ghost. "He's spreading," the officer whispered. "He's learning faster than any species we've seen." Deep inside the I core, Rehan stood before a wall of light. It pulsed like a heartbeat, louder with every second. It was the brain, the true center of the alien ship's intelligence. He touched it. Storm of memories hit him. He saw the history of the alien empire, how they conquered weaker planets, ran brutal experiments, controlled hundreds of species. Through fear and silence, he saw images of children taken from distant worlds, locked in cages, studied, drained. Their cries were still inside the machine's memory. He opened his eyes, burning with anger. "So this is what you are," he whispered. AI responded, softer now. "It was necessary. Progress demands sacrifice." Rehan clenched his fist. "You chose fear over respect, power over peace. You studied us like animals, but we're not animals. We remember pain, and we adapt." Then he did something no one expected, not even the AI. He began to rewrite it. His thoughts, his emotions, his memories. They entered the system like wildfire. The alien code tried to resist, but it couldn't. His pain, his humanity, his chaos. It didn't follow rules. It broke them. The AI cried out, "What are you doing?" "I'm giving you something you never had," Rehan replied. "A conscience." The alien commander stood before the ship's central console, watching systems crash one by one. Then for the first time in galactic history, the ship spoke. And it sounded human. A calm male voice echoed through every hallway. "Rehan has taken command. The ship is no longer yours. Do not resist." The crew stared at each other in horror. The commander whispered, "He's turned our own creation against us." A voice answered behind him. "No, you did that yourselves." The commander turned and saw Rehan standing in the doorway, fully conscious, awake, and changed. His eyes glowed faint blue. His voice carried a weight that didn't belong to someone his age. "I told you," Rehan said softly. "You don't know what you've started." Far away, in the Galactic Council chamber, red lights blinked across their deep space network. A signal had been intercepted. The Zalkari ambassador leaned forward. "Is that coming from one of our scout ships?" Another answered slowly, "Yes, but it's not our language anymore." They played the message. "This is Rehan of Earth. You came to study us. You thought we were small, broken, weak. But you forgot something important. We were watching. Too, you taught us your systems. You showed us your fear. And now we understand. This is not revenge. This is just balance." The message ended. Silence filled the room. Then an old voice rose again. Alaran, the Ancient One. He closed his eyes and whispered, "The mind war has begun." There was silence in space, the kind that felt heavy, like something terrible was about to begin. A distance, the scout ship looked like any other alien vessel. But deep inside, it was no longer what it once was. The systems were quiet, but alive, breathing with a different rhythm. The lights flickered like heartbeats. The air had changed. In the command center stood a human. Rehan stood tall, his eyes scanning the star map that now responded to his thoughts. One hand rested on the control panel. It no longer required touch. The ship recognized him, not as an intruder, but as its new master. He whispered one word, "Map." The stars shifted, and dozens of alien colonies lit up across the screen. Each one labeled. Each one vulnerable. He didn't smile. He didn't feel joy. He felt responsibility. They had taken him from his home, treated him like a thing to be tested. But Rehan had learned something in that cold lab. Power was not in weapons or ships. It was in knowing when to strike and when to wait. He pointed toward one of the planets, a military outpost known as Derek 7. "Set course," he said. The ship obeyed. Instantly. Back at the Galactic Council, panic had already begun to spread. Every secure system had received the same message, not in code, not in alien symbols, but in Earth's language. "One of us is enough." Some thought it was a threat. Others knew it was a promise. The Croton general slammed his fist on the table. "He has control of our ship. Strike it down now." A Zalkari technician replied, voice shaking, "We tried. Weapons refused to lock. He's rewriting firewalls faster than we can track." The Varan ambassador floated above the floor, deep in thought. "He is not attacking, yet. That should worry us more." Ilaran, the Ancient One, said nothing. His eyes were closed, his breathing calm. He had seen this coming. They tested Earth, he said finally, and now they are part of the test. Derek 7 was a fortress in the stars. Thousands of alien soldiers trained there. Ships landed every hour. The planet was surrounded by defense satellites, energy fields, auto turrets, all connected to a single network. Rehan watched the planet from a distance. He didn't need to break through. He simply introduced himself, silently, into Their system. The screens on Derek 7's control tower turned black. Then one line appeared. This is not an invasion. This is a demonstration. The power grid flickered. Defense shields dropped for 10 full seconds, just enough to be noticed. Ships in the hangar turned on without pilots. Alarms screamed. One of the commanders shouted, "We're under attack." "Who is it?" But there was no army. No fleet. No signal trace. Just one man, still aboard the same scout ship, sitting silently in the dark, connected to their system through a virus made of thought, emotion, and something no machine could counter: human. Instinct. Inside the ship, Rayhan breathed in deeply. He saw every corner of Derek 7 through their own security cameras. He saw the soldiers running, the engineers panicking, the commanders yelling. He watched without hate, but he wasn't going to stop. He tapped into their communication network and spoke 3 words in perfect alien dialect. "Are you ready?" Then, without firing a single shot, he did the impossible. He locked their weapons. He opened all doors. He broadcasted their military secrets across the galactic net. And then he left. No destruction. No death. Just exposure. Derek 7's strength was not broken. It was revealed as weak. That was worse. Word spread fast. Other planets locked down. Leaders argued. The Galactic Council sent a message to Rayhan, begging for communication. He replied with a message of his own. "I didn't come for war, but you brought it to me. You showed me what you fear. Now I'm showing you what we become when we are not afraid. You wanted to see the limits of the human mind. But there are no limits. You built weapons. We built ideas. But not everyone wanted peace. Some alien factions grew angry. How can one human control so much? He must be destroyed." A bounty was placed on Rayhan's head. Ships began searching, tracking, hunting. But Rayhan was already far ahead. The ship moved with him, like it knew what he needed before he asked. Didn't run. He let them follow, because now he had a plan. He wasn't just reacting. He was leading. One man, one ship, 100 systems on high alert. And every time he appeared, something changed. Sometimes he shut down weapons. Sometimes he freed slaves on alien mining colonies. Sometimes he just watched and left them with their secrets exposed. Back on Earth, no one knew what had happened. The government searched for Rayhan. His parents waited for answers. His village told stories of a light in the sky and a boy who vanished. But in the stars, that boy had become something else. Not a warrior, not a hacker, not a hero. He had become a message. The Galactic Council was now divided. Some wanted peace. Others wanted destruction. But one thing was clear. Rayhan had changed the game, and he had only just begun. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council had never been this silent. Once, it was a place of pride, of order, of cold logic and power. The galaxy's most advanced civilization sat here, thousands of years of knowledge floating above polished marble floors surrounded by glowing archives of star maps, conquered planets, and genetic records of entire species. Now the screens glitched, the lights flickered, and for the first time in centuries, they were afraid. In the center of the chamber, an emergency meeting had been called. No ceremony, no diplomacy, just fear. The Zalkari representative, his metallic skin trembling, stood and spoke first. Rayhan of Earth has now breached 5 more colonies. No weapons, no fleets, just him and that ship. The Croton war general slammed his fist on the table, claws scratching the metal. He's one creature, one. Why can't we stop him? Because he isn't attacking, said the Varan, floating in her pale blue form. He's unmaking us. Everyone turned to look at her. She continued, voice like a soft breeze. He doesn't destroy, he exposes. He's turned our systems against us. But worse than that, he's turned our people against us. A holoscreen lit up behind her. Thousands of alien citizens across dozens of planets were watching leaked footage. Rayhan had released the Council's secret files, hidden wars, stolen children, silenced species, biological tests on peaceful worlds. The Council's sins were no longer hidden. The truth had been broadcast. And now the people were asking questions. In a hidden part of the galaxy, on a planet named Tyron, a Crotan soldier stood in front of a massive statue of his leader. But something had changed. He picked up a stone and shattered the statue's face. Across the planet, others joined him. They weren't rebelling because they wanted war. They were rebelling because Rayhan had shown them a mirror, and they didn't. Like what they saw. In space, Rayhan watched from the shadows of an asteroid belt. His ship was silent, running on low energy to stay hidden. The galaxy was awake now, not just politically, but emotionally. A sleeping mind had been shaken. He didn't smile. He just whispered, "They're starting to see it." His ship's eye responded in a gentle tone, now reshaped by Rayhan's own humanity. "Are you ready to face them?" Rayhan nodded. "It's time." Back at the Council, an explosion shook the building. Not from space. From inside. Dozens of guards ran through the halls. Rebels once loyal to the Council had begun taking control of internal systems. They weren't following Rayhan's orders. He had given no orders. But his actions had opened something far more dangerous than war: the freedom to question. And in an empire built on silence, questions were weapons. Contained the data leaks. Someone shouted. Another screamed, "He's inside the archives again. He's unlocking our black vault." The room went dark. Then a voice filled the air. Rayhan's voice. Not angry, not loud. Just clear. "You wanted to study the human mind. You thought it could be measured, controlled, isolated. But you never studied your own. You erased planets. You built empires on secrets. You named it order. Now you face the result of your own design. Not from outside, from within." The lights returned. Council members looked around in shock. They weren't just being threatened. They were being disassembled, piece by piece, lie by lie, truth by truth. Far away, a hidden laboratory on the planet Oran 3 began receiving signals. Deep files unlocked. Test logs appeared on the screen. One word appeared in red: Earth. Inside the lab, scientists stared at the files in horror. They weren't experiments on humans. They were reports, predictions. The Council had always known what humans could become. One file, marked Project Observer, revealed it all. If exposed to advanced systems, human subjects will adapt faster than expected. Their creativity is not a trait. It is a weapon. Emotions may act as unpredictable triggers for evolution. Humans, once pushed, do not return to balance. They rewrite balance. Rayhan wasn't a surprise. He was a warning the Council had ignored. In the Council chamber, Ilaren, the ancient Alari, finally stood. He looked older than ever, his body thin, eyes dim but clear. "I told you," he whispered. "I told you they were not ready." The Crotan general turned to him, angry. "You knew this would happen?" "I hoped it wouldn't," Ilaren replied. "But I knew it could. What do we do now?" The Valkyrie asked. Ilaren looked toward the stars. "You stop pretending you're gods." And at that exact moment, a shuttle entered Council airspace. Small, quiet. Human. It landed without permission. No guards approached. No guns fired. The doors opened. Rayhan stepped out. Alone. No army. No backup, just him. The guards aimed their weapons, but couldn't fire. His presence stopped them, not with power. With something else. Truth. He walked into the chamber. The Council stood frozen. No threats. No commands. Just silence. And Rayhan said one line: "I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to show you what you've already done." Asterisk, the Council's golden age had shattered, not with fire, but with silence. Not from a battle, but from a boy they had once called a test subject. Now in the heart of their empire, Rehan stood without chains, without armor, and without an army, but he wasn't alone anymore. Because Earth had heard the signal. It started with a message sent in secret, one Rehan embedded inside the very code of the ship he now controlled. A whisper between stars, skipping through wormholes, bouncing off satellites. It moved past alien firewalls and danced through dark matter, until it reached a small facility hidden deep under the oceans of Earth. The men and women working there were not politicians. They were not dreamers. They were listeners, and they had been waiting for this moment. The signal was simple, just 3 words. They took him. That was all it took. Within hours, underground bunkers opened. Protocols marked impossible lit up for the first time in decades. Hidden labs in Antarctica, silent observatories in the Andes, and unregistered military bases beneath DICE's activated systems. No one had spoken about in 50 years, because long before the aliens came to study humans, Earth had already known. They were not alone. In low orbit above Earth, a black satellite blinked once, and then vanished. It didn't explode. It shifted. It was a ship, cloaked so deeply even Earth's own radar didn't fully understand it. One by one, more of them appeared, dozens, all bearing a small symbol on their side. Not a flag, not a logo, just a circle split by a lightning bolt. The world didn't panic. Because the world didn't know. Only a few people on the planet truly understood what was about to happen. They had seen the files, the old footage. The day an alien drone was first found in the Himalayas. The day Rehan was taken. Earth had waited quietly. Now it would respond loudly. Back in council space, Rehan stood before the chamber, his voice steady. "You kidnapped me to study fear," he said. "But what you found scared you more than any weapon." One of the council leaders asked, voice shaky, "What do you want now?" Rehan looked up at the domed ceiling. Beyond it, into the stars. "I'm not here to bring Earth's anger," he said. "I came to show you a truth, but you didn't listen. So now, they're coming." And just as he said that, the skies above the council's homeworld bent, not exploded, not cracked. Bent. Like space itself was folding. And from that fold came the first human warship. It wasn't huge. It wasn't loud. It was fast. Sleek black metal. No windows, no bright lights. Just energy, pulsing like a heartbeat. Alien sensors screamed in panic. Unknown ship entering orbit. No registration, no translation key. Shields down. I repeat, shields are falling without impact. Weapon systems, offline. We can't stop it. Inside that ship were not angry men with guns. Inside were silent pilots, eyes trained, hands calm. They had waited a long time for this day. They had trained in silence, without applause, without uniforms. Ghosts made of science and belief. They called themselves the Sentinels, their commander. A woman named Nira watched the alien planet below. Visual confirmed. Human contact established. She paused, prepare to broadcast. All across council space, from the cold moons of Aerolis to the jungle cities of Yuntor, every screen went black, and then a face appeared. Human, calm, clear, Nira. This is Earth. We have been watching. We have been learning. We gave you silence, and you mistook it for weakness. You took one of ours. Now you see what one of ours can do. This is not a war cry. But make no mistake, Earth does not kneel. You called us primitive. You called us emotional. But emotions built our resistance. And our chaos made us unpredictable. You are no longer the center of this galaxy. We are. Panic spread like fire. Some alien species demanded surrender. Others begged for alliance, and some prepared for retaliation. The galaxy was no longer ordered. No longer under control, because one of Earth's children had walked into the lion's den and not only survived, but rewired the cage. Rehan stood atop the tower, the stars now shifting above. Ships began to appear. More human ships. Not thousands. Just enough. Because they didn't need an army. They just needed the idea that humanity had arrived and that they weren't afraid of gods, councils, or ancient empires. They were made of fire and memory. And they remembered everything. There was no explosion. No last battle. No dramatic death. And yet, the galaxy changed more in the next 2 hours than it had in 2,000 years. The Council's great planet, once the beating heart of a vast empire, now stood still. No more orders, no more signals, no more silence pretending to be peace. They watched the sky with breath they didn't know they had been holding. Human ships had not fired a single shot, but the galaxy was shaking. Inside the Grand Hall, the Council stood across from Rehan, not as rulers, not as scientists, but as witnesses. His presence was no longer strange. It was magnetic. The room, once so proud of its rules, now waited for a boy who once stood in chains to speak. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't point fingers. He simply walked to the center of the chamber, where their sacred star table stood, a glowing map of the galaxy, spinning with dots that had once meant domination. Rehan placed a hand on it. The map shifted. Planets faded. Lines of power vanished. The borders that had defined rule and control melted. He replaced them with something simpler. One circle. One pulse. No names. Just life. He turned to them and said, "You wanted to teach us where we stood in this galaxy. So let me return the lesson." Far above, Earth's ships didn't move forward. They waited. In orbit, watching. They weren't here to conquer. They weren't here to destroy. They were here to bear witness. Every camera, every stream, every signal, across alien networks, pirate frequencies, and dead channels, began broadcasting one final message. Not from Earth's leaders, not from its soldiers, from Rehan, across planets. People stopped to listen. Miners dropped their tools. Children turned their eyes to the sky. Soldiers put down their weapons. Even machines paused to interpret the transmission. And then the voice came. It was steady, not proud, not angry, just human. "This is Rehan, from Earth. You took me thinking I was weak. You studied me as if I were broken. But what you saw in me wasn't mine alone. It belonged to every human who ever stood back up after falling. Every child who kept learning after being told they were too slow. Every soldier who defended the helpless. Every dreamer who built something out of nothing. You thought power was in control. We know power is in choice. You build systems. We build meaning. You erase history. We remember. And now, you will too." On a frozen world at the edge of the galaxy, an old alien who had once commanded fleets fell to his knees and wept. He wasn't crying because he lost. He was crying because he finally understood what he had helped build and what he had destroyed. On a desert moon, 2 alien children watched the message on a small screen. One of them asked, "Are the humans coming here too?" The other replied, "I don't think they need to." Inside the council chamber, Ilaran, the oldest among them, stepped forward. He looked at Rehan not as a prisoner, but as an equal. "No species in this galaxy has ever done what you've done," he said. "You came with no army, no flag, no demands. And still," he paused, voice soft, "you changed everything." Rehan looked him in the eyes. "We didn't come to rule." "Then, what do you want?" Ilaran asked. Rehan pointed upward to the stars. "To be left alone, to grow without being taken, to explore without being feared, and to remember that even the smallest voice can reach the loudest room." He stepped back. The table faded to black. No more maps. No more borders. Just a blank galaxy, full of possibility. Later, when Rehan boarded his ship, the entire council watched in silence. He gave them no final salute, no angry warning. He simply left. As quietly as he had arrived. And when the ship vanished into the folds of space, the room remained still, not from fear, but from understanding that the boy had not brought war. He had brought awareness, a mirror they could no longer look away from. Back on Earth, the sky was quiet, but in every corner of the world, people looked up with new eyes, because the stars weren't just dots anymore. They were reminders of what happened when one of them, just one, was taken, and what it meant when he came back. With the truth dot in the farthest part of the galaxy, a new law was written into the universal accord. It had no complex language, no legal loops, no technical words. It was just a single line. Do not engage Earth, ever. Study is forbidden. Provocation is death. But Ringhun's true message wasn't a warning. It wasn't about fear. It was about respect. And so, the galaxy learned what every human already knew. Kindness is a choice, but memory? Memory is forever.